All right, so we're back with another interviewee. Grendwynn, how are you? How you doing?
Hey, I'm good. Glad to be here tonight. Thanks for having me on your wonderful couch this evening.
Yeah, it looks like a couch. I'm sure all our viewers see this and they're like, did the backgrounds change? They did. But yeah, so introduce yourself. What brings you to the Oob?
Well, I'm I was looking for more D&D in my life. I've been playing two campaigns with my husband for about 3.5 years now. And I came to D&D later in life. It was kind of a pandemic thing. And I don't know why I didn't find it earlier in life. I love performing and the whole role play aspect. So, like, that really sealed it for me. But I came to it because my best friend and a lot of my other friends started going into D&D. And, we were like, hey, that seems like something we might have fun with. And we got started on Out of the Abyss and fell in love with it. And then my husband Devin decided he wanted to DM. So we all chose a gothic horror. He started doing Strahd, and we've been having a blast with it. But we just didn't have like that extra thing. There wasn't quite enough D&D. Even though there's Critical Role and Dimension 20, I still needed more.
Oh, I hear that. It's sometimes hard to watch just because the episodes are so long and they go for so long. But it is what it is. But I know your husband brought you into our campaign to join us, but what interests you about our world?
Oh, I like the dragon aspect. Like the idea of just a world that is ruled by dragons and you get to interact with dragons all the time is super cool, fun, exciting. I love that you guys had this idea of like a whole world built around them and they had the three different factions and it was clear you guys had an understanding of where you wanted to go with your story. I love the idea that it was a homebrew campaign. So it wasn't, something I could pick up a book and just do. Um, I think those are the main reasons. I was excited to try and play a Firbolg. I had a character that was a Firbolg once, so it seemed like a good idea or a good opportunity to pull in a character that you might not get to see in too many settings, since we could come from any world that was our own world.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. So let's talk about your Firbolg there. What do you want to tell me about it? You don't have to go too far into your backstory if you don't want to, since everybody can kind of watch these. I don't know if you want to keep anything secret or whatever, but tell me about
Well,
your character.
so Grendwynn, she is a person who believes deeply in what she is meant to do. And when she gets a job, she takes it so seriously. She was brought up in a very, nature based society. Her family and her community was small and focused on being close to nature, being in nature. There were forests everywhere. She didn't really know what a city looked like for most of her young life. And I decided for her that in her community that her young life was until like her late 20s. But, her community was just really close to nature. And, after she was able to achieve her, I don't, there's not really, I think there's no name for it, but her maturation and get her amethyst or sorry, her amber from inside the grandfather tree. She decided to devote her life to Sylvanas and nature. And then she went out into the world to try and spread the word of Sylvanas in her way by doing good works and protecting nature. And she ended up finding cities and she discovered that not everybody believed in protecting nature the way she and her group, her family, and her community did. So she took it upon herself to find different places that were abusing nature and help them to redefine themselves in a more harmonious relationship with the world around them.
Okay. Now I know I've kind of kept you guys on the whole caravan railroad pretty much up to the last session. Really, I've kind of released the reins, if you will. But what have you thought of the campaign so far?
I think we've been having fun. the characters are kind of, some of the characters are a little surprising. Like the caravan leader, it was interesting going back and thinking about like when we decided to go off track and go into the spider den to try and save her, and how angry she got at us when we did actually find her and save her. And then to see her so willingly give people away to what she knows is a life of enslavement, and just like recognizing that that really is who she is. She's like zero care over life and what it means to know people and to care for people. It just isn't in her. She doesn't even care for herself, it seems.
Sure, sure.
So I thought that was
Yeah,
really interesting. Seraph was an interesting character as well. I love that she had to find an alternate way to communicate, and we had to somehow like interpret that and work with her, and we were able to bond with her even though she couldn't speak with us.
yeah. I liked making her. I know I throw in a lot of NPCs and then kind of come up with like the interesting hooks about them later. But for the most part, I have it ready for the campaign at least once you guys are meant to meet these people. But um, what what are you like looking forward to next, kind of in the near term?
Well, I think it'll be interesting to meet the snow dragon, right? The
Yeah,
We call him white dragon. I think its power is snow dragon.
yeah,
And kind of look at the differences between what the lava dragon and the snow dragon are gonna be, and just like getting to know the world itself. And I really love the Easter egg of like the goblin who came out of nowhere, and we got to interact with them and sort of hear that crossover with the other group, and how that goblin was with them, and like they destroyed everything this goblin ever knew, and then we took pity on the goblin. It was just interesting to see that like dynamic of both of us having an effect on the world around us, and getting to tangibly see and interact with the effects that the other team has had. And I wonder like how much of that they have run into with us in our group.
Who knows?
So I don't know if I actually answered your question.
I mean,
That's
you're
what I
good.
said.
Sounds like you're interested in the snows. It's cool. It's cool. Um, how do you feel about the other party? Like, how does your character feel about them right now?
I feel curious about them. They don't. I mean, it seems like they were saving a family from the goblins. So, like, even though I took pity, Grendwynn took pity on the goblin and set it free instead of killing it. I think she kind of recognizes that they were doing good in their own way. So I think she kind of is curious to know more about them, and doesn't have negative feelings about them at this point, but doesn't really have strong feelings about them other than a curiosity.
Cool. How do you feel about being a knight?
I think it's awesome. I think figuring out how to survive as a knight is an interesting challenge. I've never really played a paladin to this degree, like full campaign paladin. So I'm intrigued to like be able to find that balance of keeping people up, but also being that tank that's up front, but also not going down myself. So I think that's been something that I've struggled with, as far as, being the tank and not also going unconscious regularly.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. It's the whole party seems to be leaning into the whole tanky combat type
Everybody
situation.
said
And it's
tank.
fair. It's fair because I mean that's kind of what I'm here for is kind of the more combat slash role play, whereas he
Mhm.
is more of the role play slash combat. But um, yeah, I mean I think that covers a lot. What do you think there, Dungeon Daddy?
Yes. So curious, what do you think of the split campaign, having two DMs in one world, and your actions can affect the other group and vice versa?
I love it. I think that's a really interesting dynamic. I think it makes the world more like palpable. We're able to see our effects and see their effects. Like I mentioned with the goblin, just that knowledge that we are able to see what they're doing makes it more defining as, the reality for the characters.
I can see that. Yeah.
I like it.
Well, and I'm glad you like it. I obviously at low level, the amount of damage you can do in the world is a little bit limited. But higher you get, the more you may see of each other, as far as where they've been, where you've been, so on and so forth.
Yeah,
I'll lean into that.
I will
I
say
think
that
that'll
I
be
can.
like
Oh, I'm sorry. Go
icing
ahead.
on the cake. So I think that'll be icing on the cake. I think so far it's a really solid campaign, and the world is so fleshed out, and I think just like having more and more of those incidents of overlap where we see what they've done but we don't see them is going to keep our interest peaked.
We'll definitely have more sessions too, where it'll be uncommon enough in between to not be like all the time, but there will definitely be sessions where everybody comes together for a session, maybe half a session, just things like that.
And obviously, how much you want to talk to each other is completely up to, well, all of you. So if you guys end up going one or half a session, one session, two sessions, talking to each other, role playing, that's fine too. If you guys decide to just attack each other on site, I mean that's a thing we can work out too. I
It'd be very interesting.
don't know.
Who knows who'll rise from the ashes?
You know that combat group.
Hey, you better watch it, your team.
It depends on how they approach us.
But yeah, that's basically all I've got, DG.
Yeah, I mean, I think we covered a lot. Thank you for coming to our TED Talk.
Yeah, I feel like we've learned a lot today.
All right.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks.